Welcome to the after party. Number 1.
Yay! What the hell was that?
That was the bus. That was
somebody
bringing in the noise, bringing in the funk.
I'm really good at Sandstorm. We'll
thick
do
water
it.
or
I'm too old for that.
Why are we here, Leland?
Why don't you tell us, John?
Oh, okay. Well, the after party is just sort of an episode we're going to throw out every the fourth episode of every fourth episode, I think is what we planned on doing.
Yeah, every second week.
Yeah.
The second episode of every second week of every month, possibly every second month, is going to be the after party.
Whenever in the hell we want
It's
to.
a very complicated algorithm
Yeah.
that we've devised as a group, meaning that it is probably going to fail and explode or implode, one of the two.
Yep.
But that's per plan.
Planned.
Right, as per plan. That was factored in to our algorithm.
The idea was basically for us to get together and sort of talk about the prior 3 episodes a little bit and just, talk about whatever in the hell we want to talk about and how it's going through the adventure and, maybe question the DM on specific things that we all missed because we didn't pay any attention as we were playing.
I like it. And it'll get to know you guys as the players more as opposed to during play. We, during the regular sessions, they get to know the characters, but not really the people behind the characters, so which is good.
Yeah, I'd like to say that Shaft does not hold any of the same, or very few of the same opinions that I myself personally hold. He is a character, but I don't believe in most of the things Shaft stands for.
Well, that's comforting.
But I will say I use the word most.
I, on the other hand, am right in there with Gozer. I like to beat up stuff and
She's no nonsense. Yeah.
Yeah.
No nonsense. Pay me.
I'll attest that is true. Typically, when we go places like Arby's or something, if somebody looks at her wrong, she'll jump over the counter and start beating the crap.
I was gonna say, does she go up to the counter at Arby's and say, "Food,
food now,
food, hungry, pay me."
Gozer knows what she wants.
Do you have a battle axe?
No, but we do have a sword.
Okay.
I mean, it's John's sword, but he wouldn't know if I took it. Now I need a battle axe.
We'll look into that.
Well, what did you guys think of the first few episodes?
I loved it. Yeah, I had a blast.
It was fun to listen back.
Yeah, I think it's good to know that we're just starting, out, and we really only had a few times we got together beforehand. Bill and Elena really haven't played before, and of course, I still apparently have some second edition stuff stuck in my head that I haven't thought about the 5th edition stuff.
Yeah, so. That's so funny that happens to everybody. I mean, I constantly am using like older edition skill terms despite never having played one of those older editions. I don't know why they're in my head. I'm like, it's so weird. But actually, that's funny though. Like in 5e, like the Dungeon Masters, like there's a ton of variants in that DMG,
right?
That draw off of those older rules, I guess, for people who are accustomed to those can easily add them into 5e. It's not like it's going to break the system too, right?
Right.
Bill and Elena, do you know what DMG stands for?
Yeah, totally. Follow you guys.
Dungeon Masters. I was thinking
Dungeon Masters
journal,
Guild.
but journal's not spelled with a G.
I like this. We can do like a John sense, except for,
gosh,
all of the D&D terms.
And
You're close. Dungeon Master's Guide.
There we go.
Oh, okay.
Close.
I was gonna say I was kidding when I said Dungeon Master's Guild, but I was gonna actually say damage, but apparently not.
It starts with a G?
Damage.
No, DMG, the abbreviation for damage.
Oh,
Nice.
I just got it.
Anyway. Yeah, so like we have the player's handbook. You have the DMG. That's what you're saying.
Exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly.
So the cool thing, I think we're going to get some perspective of you guys asking questions and Leland and I figuring out what the hell is actually going on there. But the cool thing with 5e is, and like D&D in general, and that's sort of what I thought about, saying the RPG curious, is it's usually people who've played a lot of tabletop games. I talk to people and they say, oh, I'd like to do Dungeons and Dragons, but it's just so complicated, or so many books, or, I can't get into it. I always tell everybody, the rules are guidelines. You just sit down, you play, you have a good time, and sit around, have some drinks with your friends, and make up a story. And
Right.
so there's no point in getting too caught up in what rule set or what rules you're playing. Ultimately, the DM makes the rules, and we just live within that world.
Right. And actually, there's there's a few variants that I will be introduced pretty far down the line. I mean, this is the after party. This is behind the screen kind of thing. We've recorded like quite a ways above and beyond what has currently been released, right? So
Right.
it's so we're gonna keep any of our discussions spoilery free as much as possible, and possibly maybe hinting at some later stuff maybe. But yeah, I definitely, like, when we play later after this, there's some variants that I think I want to introduce, and that may seem counterintuitive to kind of the beginnery teaching part of this, the aspect of this show, but I think that is a huge part, like you just said, John. Like, it's all guidelines. It's all just use the rules as you see fit, and that's a huge part of playing tabletop role-playing games, in my opinion. Like, it's just adaptation. Like, just do what is gonna give the table the most amount of fun.
Right.
So I think that's a good thing to impress upon newbies to TTRPGs as well. I mean, like you said, like, just get over that, like, that daunting, that almost insurmountable idealism, like the conceptions of the perceptions of role-playing games in general, I think.
And in like an extension with the podcast, people hear things like, Critical Role or other, voice actor type podcast, and they have an expectation of that's the way their session should go when they get their friends together. And then when it doesn't go that way, it seems to fall flat. They go, we really didn't have a good experience. Well, just don't go into it with those expectations. That's not what it is.
That's not
It's a
fair.
show.
They're professional voice actors, and
we are nothing if not professional.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, we had no expectations, that's for sure. Bryn's voice is exactly like my voice, and so is Falzarin's. So, I mean,
I have yet to reveal my real
you start
voice.
somewhere. Hey.
I'm still in character.
Yeah. I think my voice will change. I started out as a pirate, so
Yeah, there's certain spots where you really pull out the pirate.
yeah,
great.
it'll change up. Trust me. By episode 100, it won't sound anything the same.
Yeah.
Hell, by episode 100, you guys will all be dead and playing new characters.
There you go. At this
probably
rate.
have swapped out characters 6 different times by then.
Yeah, I think we got unconscious within the first 10 minutes of episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
New to barbarianism, forgot to rage, sorry.
Yeah, I
our
noticed
strongest
that you weren't
people.
raging, but I didn't notice it when we first played through, right? So listening back, you're learning and thinking, and like even when we stabilized, I think I went and stabilized Shaft or whatever, and I was like, told you I'd save your butt. I mean, like, it didn't click with me, and then a couple episodes later, it happens again, and like I'm just like, what do I do again? Like, it wasn't even clicking. It was just
You
so
were trying to
brand
talk
new.
to Shaft right after
Yeah.
you stabilized him, but you
He's
didn't
like, I'm
realize
unconscious.
He's
I
still
can't hear you.
unconscious. Yeah, I didn't get that either until
Yeah,
later.
I didn't get that, like, when you're 0 health, you're, like, fainted. Like, we didn't, yeah, it was just all so new, and we just...
No, I think that's great. I think that's exactly what we're trying to go for here is the learning thing, but also
Yeah,
you know,
ineptitude. That's what we're shooting for.
yeah.
We excel
I
at
mean, I have a big fat complaint about the very first attack roll and the very first biggest mistake, And, like, I don't understand how no one caught this after listening to it and editing it. How many times, Leland? Like, you had to have heard this. We clearly defined, and you said what advantage means. Mm-hmm. And then I rolled one, and we just took that critical
fail, and we just ran with
we
it.
We rolled the fail, and
Everyone
we went with it.
Everyone got excited. But
yeah, critical fails are a learning experience.
And it is a learning experience. But I will say, as I was listening back, I was pissed. Because...
certainly during play, completely overlooked that. I literally gave you advantage 5 seconds before you rolled the die. And we completely mistook it. But obviously, it was I caught it in editing that first pass, right? But
it worked out all right.
What it led to, led to was your interaction with Shaft charging you, right? It just led to more character, and that's what I really mean by like the fun. That's the rule that we broke, that we played incorrectly, but it led to so much more. Then you know what? Oh, you hit this hideous golem thing. Okay, great. Next player. Like I don't know. That's the free form flow that these games should take, and I think that's
I hit the Arcanist.
Oh yeah, you hit him good. You hit him good.
My other point would be, now that I noticed it in post and no one else said anything, what kind of experience points does Bryn get? Because she's obviously grown as a player and learned the rules.
Well, I'll give Elena an extra 200 experience points. Okay. Bryn doesn't get shit.
It doesn't transfer?
Sorry, it doesn't transfer. That's
Dang
non-transferable.
Come on. Oh, I felt so proud of myself for noticing that, though. Dang.
You know what? Honestly, again, avoiding like a spoiler thing, that arrow in Arcanus, like, I used as a nice like reference point.
That's true.
For you as a party too in the future, which we haven't quite got to yet in the release schedule here, but so it worked out for me.
Yeah, the Arcanist knows what my arrows look like. Great.
Yeah, exactly.
Fantastic.
So, Bill and Elena, what do you guys think now that you've played however many sessions we've done so far? How does it compare to what you thought it was going to be? What you thought Dungeons and Dragons or role playing was all about, compared to what your experience now? What do you think? Is there anything that was not what you thought it would be, or different?
Actually, leading up to this, part of you guys kind of planted the seed a while ago and said, "Hey, you guys want to try D&D sometime?" And then suggested I listen to a podcast or two. So that was partly what helped, because I had a lot of false perceptions about what D&D is until I listened to some podcasts which sounded a bit more similar to how we play. So, I think I had in my mind, something which is maybe a bit more similar to people who are professional voice actors, who are, used to improv and this sort of thing, and as opposed to what we're doing, which is, a bunch of friends getting together and, going on an adventure and pretending you're doing this or that, but not necessarily putting on a professional performance, right?
Right.
Well, and I think the feeling we want to evoke too is just like the listeners are sitting at the table with us is really what we're...
Oh, for sure.
Exactly.
I think ideally is what we're shooting for right now.
My impressions of D&D stem from the beginning of Stranger Things. And I had only... I think I'd only ever heard it like mentioned in passing, like in a way that it's like a nerdy pop culture reference of, you know what I mean? Like it's described as being nerdy or whatever. I don't know. I was all for it. I was ready to sign on before Bill.
Yeah, I think if more people actually experienced what D&D was like, they wouldn't think it so much of a nerdy thing.
Yeah, I definitely am not. It's super creative, and it's like I'm really appreciating feeling like I'm using a creative part of my brain that we don't use on a daily basis. Like, yeah, I don't have a job that allows me much creativity. I think I find it really fun. And
it reminds me a lot of, like, when I was growing up, I loved reading fantasy. This is right up my alley, wizards and orcs and stuff like that. I read a bunch of fantasy novels growing up and loved it. So I'm loving that aspect of it. You know, pretending I'm back in this world with, you know, all these different races, and it's cool. I like it.
Now, how do you feel about like when I play the Shaft? I'm always in my mind going, "What would Shaft do in this situation?" And then, you know, trying to do whatever I think he would do. How do you feel about that part of the role playing and what you guys are doing?
That definitely, I think that for me anyway, that's taking a bit of practice and there's a bit of a learning curve. I think I'm starting to get more comfortable doing that. And part of it is sometimes I just forget that, you know, I have to not think about, okay, what would I do in this situation? And what would Falzarin do?
Yeah, I would say knowing Bill pretty well, Falzarin and Bill are pretty similar.
Oh, is Bill a magic user too?
Yes.
as a magic user. Well, he needs
he only knows magic.
He needs his beauty rest. He needs.
Never going to hear the end of that.
And so in
his
different
spells.
context.
I mean, and I think I'm a little bit like Bryn too. I can have a little bit of a temper. I can, you know, I want to just like get into like fighting and like shoot things, and yeah. So I think we're just like
Did you
playing
see that,
off of our own character a little bit.
That picture I sent you, Bill, that shows your first character looked like Harry Potter or whatever.
Yes.
And then your 300th character looked like a madman or some kind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I think the more you play, the more you want to get as far away from yourself as possible with your character.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
At least that's the way I do it.
Yeah, that's why I went with Gozer being evil and chaotic and half orc, because I to this point only played good characters,
Yep.
and I needed something different.
Yeah, I think. I don't know.
It's hard getting used to that, though.
Yeah. I think that I chose like a really brave character, and I really like being like gutsy and like, because I think in real life I'm more prone to like worrying and anxiety, and like Bryn is like immune to that kind of stuff. So I think some of it's a little bit different, but it's hard to like think like that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I find I think it's going to take a little while for me to understand for it to become more like second nature, to know what like, say you're this alignment versus that alignment, you're chaotic good or you're new, whatever the different ones are. It's going to take a little while for me to be able to think on the spot of, okay, well, if you're this alignment, this is what you tend to lean towards it. I have to think about that still.
I think a lot of people put too much emphasis on alignment anyway. I mean, it's just sort of a rule of thumb of the type of person you are, but it shouldn't drive your every decision.
Well,
Sure.
yeah, but also for me, I think about Joffrey from Game of Thrones. How would Joffrey react to this situation? That's what I try and do with Gozer.
Oh, that's why I hate Gozer.
Yes! Pissed off Leyland Steele.
It's definitely been a learning experience, because I think for a little minute there I thought I could like say exactly what I wanted to do, but it's like, no, you got to roll first, figure out if you can do what you want to do. Like I was saying stuff like I slit his throat, and you're like, wait a second, we don't know that you slit his throat. Like, roll the dice.
Well, and that the dice are like real life, because you never know. You could decide you want to do something, but you never know what kind of natural forces are going to be aligned against you in wanting to do this thing.
Yeah, you and John are really good at, like, if you roll something that you know is a miss, you, like, are able to fill in the context of, oh, well, I was just, you know, I forget what was said in one of the episodes. You're like, oh, she was kind of distracted, and so her axe went into, you know.
I tried to sneakily pocket that
Yeah.
runic metal cube and knocked it on the ground and kicked it along, because I don't know, I rolled something terrible, basically.
Yeah, I always sort of look at it like we're all painting a picture together.
Yeah.
And the more
Yeah.
descriptive we can be of the story, the more fun. And that's why when Leland, when he starts out, he'll explain the environment and the things. So one of the things I've always heard is when you walk into a room, you should describe the senses, right? What you see, what you hear, what you smell, and that sort of puts you in that mood first. And then when you do something, you need to, I hit him with my axe is not a fun way to paint that picture.
Right.
But it's easy to forget that, though.
Yeah, it's something I need to work on too. Like these first few times we play, like I was super rusty DMing, and because I hadn't done it in a while, and I need to work on that too, because the senses thing is really important, because like there's so many like monsters and interactions that you could potentially have that evoke those senses, and when you are only describing those senses in a particular instance, then very clearly they are important and right, like they mean something, as opposed to always getting that information and then as the players having to discern the amount of information that is incoming at all times, kind of thing. So that's something I need to work on 100%. I don't know. I love DMing though. I would 100% choose to be a DM that.
Would you 100%? I'm just kidding. You said 100% like 3 times in 1 minute.
That's 300%.
300%.
So, as far as the first 3 episodes, we want to sort of walk through a little bit. You guys have some things you want to talk about on what happened?
The only thing I had for episode 1 was that I was pissed about the critical fail. And making a note to myself, do I get extra experience for recognizing this and showing growth and understanding?
You get a hearty round of applause. Yay!
Okay. I get a pat on the back. Okay.
I mean, the things I really liked about that first encounter was we didn't know each other, number one, so that was interesting. And then your arrow going into the Arcanist was great to show what a critical fail is. And then I think, Emily, you said we really don't know each other too well in game yet, right? Gozer and Shaft. We have a little bit of but you seem to be
a little bit of past dealings, but only recently kind of hooked up and.
You guys hooked up?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Well,
Shaft.
Shaft is
any physics of that really.
I don't want to know.
Shaft is how tall, and Gozer is
he's
how
like
tall?
2 foot something.
2'7".
Yeah.
Gozer's more like 6 foot.
All right. Okay.
Nature finds a way.
But his proportions are all human size.
Yeah, I think the first episode there, Emily, if you would have been raging, you wouldn't have died or like passed out or fainted or whatever.
I wouldn't have gone down nearly as quickly.
Yeah. You went down so quick, and so that's why later when you became such a meat shield, that's no spoiler alert, really. It's because you're raging. So it made a big difference.
Yeah, that really cemented that in my brain that I need to do that.
Yeah, really hard to kill when you're raging, for sure.
Yeah.
And, well, I mean, honestly, that, like that first encounter, like, you weren't meant to defeat that golem, right? Like, it was the classic, like, throw the uber superpower thing to show off some, I mean, in particular, showing off what the Arcanist can do, really. That's all that was about, right?
Right.
Very by the book and uninspired opening, but did the job.
Well, at least we didn't meet in a tavern.
Hey, that's true.
I think there were some good character things said at the beginning. Like you were sort of listening to me, but then didn't listen to me very quickly afterwards. Right?
Yeah, I mean, we're not friends. We're together out of my necessity.
And business
and your necessity,
partners. Right.
Yeah, more
You're
business partners and friends.
And then I think you guys all said you had some confusion on why we didn't just
why'd you let him go?
Yeah, right. So Shaft is manipulative, right? He is the kind of character that I'm playing him as. Is he would rather stay out of a fight and manipulate the situation to his best interest.
But wouldn't he have wanted his bounty?
Well, he just revived us, number one.
Yeah, they had almost no health.
Yeah, true.
I think it made complete sense.
Okay. Yeah, so I didn't want to go down. And then the idea was also to try to lure him back in. If you noticed, I was asking him to come back and meet us for a drink, things like that. So I was going to try to convince him, verbally to follow us back to where we need to take him. That's worked out really well.
There's no way we could have taken him at that time. He would have demolished us.
Yeah.
True.
So that's why I have my muscle, or at least that's my plan, is to have my muscle with me.
Shaft calling him, where'd you get the name Artie?
I don't even know. I think it just came up.
I think he's my friend Artie.
Yeah, that was really funny.
Is that in the first 3 episodes?
Yeah, that is.
I can't remember.
That is, you say Artie a lot in the first 3 episodes.
Okay, good. Yeah, that sort of struggled with that, but I needed to come up with some kind of reason. and getting good with Isabella overall. Right?
Yeah, I was gonna say Isabella started really taking interest in Falzarin.
Well, yeah.
And his magic.
When I listened back, couldn't
She was
believe
really-
that I was oblivious to that the whole time it was happening.
I think that was awesome that
It
Falzarin
was
was oblivious to that.
kind of in character,
But
yeah.
Yeah.
in retrospect, that's probably what Falzarin would be like. I don't. He's probably not super popular with the ladies. He's probably not used to being hit on. He's been obsessed with books for decades, right?
Books and magic, right?
Yes. So
Magic.
it was really funny listening back and realizing,
crap.
wow, Leland, aka Isabella, was hitting on me this whole time, and I had no clue.
Whoa. Just like the separation between John and Shaft's actions, there is a distinct Berlinian wall between Leland Steele and the actions of his NPCs.
Leland and Bill said.
Yeah, that was really
my.
funny to listen back
Oh,
to.
there it is. There it is.
Hey, don't get me excited.
Shaft.
Listener will quickly realize that I have basically 2 variations of voices that all the NPCs are going to cycle through.
Yep.
There's a few sessions down the road, I try to put on this like Cockney accent, but it like
Is that what that was?
falls apart after like a single like line. It's hard to do. It's impossible to do.
It fell apart so fast I don't even remember you doing it.
Exactly. Probably for the best.
I was kind of hoping you would edit out the fact that so Leland sent us our backstories for our characters of how we ended up in Zexa, and he sent me my first assassination order, and it was all typed out on Discord. So I was kind of hoping he would leave out.
Oh yeah.
I was kind of hoping he would leave out the fact that Sardo is spelled Sardos. But see, in character on episode 2, I kept saying there's only one Sardo and it's not Sardos and like all this stuff. It's because I want to make sure it was the right guy to kill. I just felt stupid listening to it back.
Problem with S's.
Yeah, silent S.
I don't know, but it led to John's line about, well, that would definitely be two of them then.
Sardos. Yeah. That was a good line. That was a good line. And then, I mean, the whole time we're interviewing him, like, I just, like, am listening to my silence, and I say, so did we get all the information we want out of him? Like, I'm just, like, itching.
You're just
itching
itching
kill.
to pull out your rapier.
Yeah, you are ready to kill him.
And I think at
I'll
home,
say-
Bill probably could tell. Yeah.
My whole intent there was to drag the Arcanist out, right? That's why I was yelling.
Yeah.
You know, and I really didn't expect you to actually kill him, so I was a bit shocked at
I
that.
picked up on what you were laying down, and I was like, yeah, we need to create a scene, so let's get him.
Yeah, so I'm yeah, that's I don't think we got to the next thing I was going to say. I think it's in another episode.
We got to me killing him. Episode
Yeah.
3, I kill him. Yeah.
Yeah, did we have the questioning phase? Did we go around and talk to people?
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
when
So
we went to
Sardo
the
was number
door-
2, and we went to Leanne number 3, and it leaves off with us tracing the footsteps on the roof. So.
Yeah. So Shaft is always going to be weary of you. You know, I don't have any idea who you're planning to kill at any point in time, which is
I know
why
what
I
you're
want
referencing. Why you asked?
to.
Well, does anyone want to kill her?
Right. Yeah. I think that might be a question that comes up from time to time.
Oh, I'm always ready to kill somebody.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you do it basically out of just because of you're bored.
Yeah. Yes. I get bored easily. Don't let me get bored.
Yeah. Let's not spoil anything with Gozer here, but she definitely doesn't shy from a fight.
I think that's another kind of layer that I'm finding really enjoyable is that, you know, each one of us has a backstory that we're kind of staying true to. You know, we've all discussed it individually with Leyland, and none of us knows about each other's history except for what's come out when we've been interacting with each other, you know, live on the show. So that's fun to, like, you know, I've thought about that many occasions about, you know, what don't I know about these other adventurers? You know, maybe they've done this, maybe this is one of their motives, or so that's kind of cool. That adds a lot more depth to it.
The listeners can listen to the World of Aspara information session with our character backstory
Right.
and know that we have not listened to each other's.
Right. Yeah. Listener will know more than each of us will, actually, which is
Like first episode, I call you Shaft, John, and you're like,
Right.
how'd you know my name? I was like, oops.
And I also said we may have met before.
Oh right, I remember that. And I was like,
I didn't catch that
yeah.
joke initially, I don't think.
I was like, I don't think so.
And that like tendency to metagame is oftentimes really hard to overcome too, right? And I don't know. I think you guys have been doing a great job of moderating that amongst yourselves, and it's very. I don't think at all I've had to intervene, right, and kind of remind like, well, you don't know that, so you know this action you're trying to do doesn't really make sense. I don't think I've had to do that at all with you guys so far, which is great. I mean, it makes my life easier.
Yeah, we're naturals.
But like, I want to go back to those 3 interviews, like that all of that. Like you going back to Isabella's shop, and her having the list of those people, like that was all, like I improv that.
Yeah.
Like none of that was planned, right? I mean, it was pretty evident. Maybe not on the recording if I edited it well enough, but when I was giving you the names of these 3 people,
Yeah, that's true.
John,
Yes.
you were nice enough to be like, yeah, I'll take the list and give me some time to write down some names before you asked exactly what they were,
Right.
Now,
which was appreciated.
I will say that that's probably not going to happen in the future.
Well, in the future, I will say I should be more well prepared. But like all of those interactions, those 3 interactions, came like completely organically. Like none of
Right.
that was planned, so that's cool, and I think it turned out really good. Hence why Braun didn't get
Wrong
hurt.
Templeton.
But
Why did he see the doctor? And you're like,
he went to see Dr. Good.
good point. It was something personal. And then you're like, oh,
Right.
what's Isabella's deal now?
What is Isabella's deal?
We don't know.
So you hadn't planned for us to meet Sardo? That
I
happened
had
spontaneously?
not. I had no plans for how you would,
Okay.
or how Bryn specifically would happen upon Sardo. So John just like fed me that on a silver plate.
Yeah, that
which
was a good.
awesome.
That was a good play.
Yeah, it was
So
really good.
John gets some experience points now too, right?
So John gets some experience. But yeah, John, you also get 200 experience.
Hey, I just leveled.
Level 2
Keep that to
human.
yourself.
Yeah.
Oh man, and like there's just little stuff too. Like the last episode left off, you're like, all right, so you're just gonna scale this two-story wall, and I was like, yeah, and you're like, you don't want to use your burglar's pack, and I'm like, oh yeah, like I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, but that's fine though.
I guess I have a rope, and then Bill's got like magic. He can just make sure it's
Magic
up there
hands.
secure, and yeah.
Yeah, you didn't even really tie that rope. You kind of just threw it up on the roof and you climbed out.
I
of it.
pictured it.
Holds.
I pictured it lassoing like a chimney. So like it was
Yeah.
it was
Kind
like
of,
a,
yeah. He kind of magically hand waved that. A little
he's like, is
Got up
everybody
there.
climbing up on the roof? And then Shaft and Gozer are like, I'm not going up there.
That's too much work.
I just figure like I'm starting to learn what sort of checks he would make me take, and like I have good acrobatics, and so like as we get further into playing, I like know I have stealth and sleight of hand and things like that. So like every now and then you throw in a random check like nature or survival or something, and I'm like, how does that
Well,
make sense? But
They're not supposed to be random.
I know.
If I'm applying them correctly to the situation. But actually, there's
learning.
Right, sure. And there's actually something in the player's handbook, I think it is, a variant on using those skills where I think it's up to DM discretion, but like I could ask for a skill check that would apply a different modifier other than the normally associated modifier. Like I think there's an example in the handbook of like if you were to tie, like you wanted to like tie a knot or something. If you were like maybe tying up a bounty and you wanted to tie a knot, instead of like I would make a sleight of hand, but instead of being dexterous, it could possibly be a sleight of hand intelligence check to play it like bring upon your knowledge of specific knots that you were able to tie, maybe, if that's could possibly be something part of your background, which we haven't done and we haven't really discussed. I don't know if that would be applicable, but sometimes like it's difficult to find a skill like to ask for a skill check that I want. Like
Right.
when you guys are like recalling knowledge or something, like specific knowledge, like memory. I mean, not like, you know, like history of a town or whatever, but like I don't know what check to do with that. So it's like, I don't know. Does history apply? Like isn't history's intelligence, right? That kind of work.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird. So it's like it's just guidelines. You can finagle it. You can do you ask for what works or seems to work in the moment, even if it's incorrect. Which again is almost counterintuitive to our teaching aspect of this show, but it is what it is.
Ultimately, you're trying to move the story along, essentially.
That's right.
I mean, I like the idea, like you were just saying, if I was to tie somebody up, you might say, give me a roll of 20 for me and tell me what it is. And then you have in your mind, if I don't get over a 12, that this guy's going to be able to squiggle around and break the knot loose, because I didn't pay a lot of attention when I tied him up. Those kind of things, I think, are really good, because, you know, the character doesn't realize what's going on, and you don't. Every time the DM asks you to roll something, you automatically go, oh crap, what am I supposed to be seeing? Something? What am I supposed to be doing? And I don't. That sort of takes you out of the moment, I think, you know, ultimately. But I like the idea, if it happens a lot for different things, you sort of get numb to it. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I know, and that's always like I find the struggle with perception checks in general. Like,
right.
When I asked you guys to do perception checks, like actually there's in some maybe session 6, I think, in the future, like you guys are sitting in a tavern and like having dinner, and I asked you guys for a perception check. Like,
Right.
It's kind of out of nowhere. Like, how do you get around? It's difficult to get around unless every 5 minutes I'm gonna ask you guys to do a perception check. It's like,
right.
So it's difficult to balance the amount of information that you just freely give to your players as opposed to what you deem that they should be rolling for.
Right.
Especially, I mean, there are specific instances where that makes sense, where if someone is trying to obscure themselves from the party, et cetera, et cetera. But then, like, the very instance of you rolling that roll means, someone is probably trying to hide from us.
Exactly.
And if we all rolled low, like, someone probably just hid from us. And that's, again, where that metagaming stuff comes from, where you can't, your characters have no idea, and the players can't allow the characters to be influenced by that.
Yeah.
Which is always something difficult to.
I think the hard thing is, as a DM, is to be able to put something in place to move the story where you want it to be. If they're all sitting in a bar and really nothing's happening, you could have somebody run in and yell fire, or yell, you know, something going on to drag them out of the bar to move them onto that next experience. And it's hard to do organically sometimes. It's just a rough thing as a DM to be able to do that kind of thing.
How did you guys all like when in the middle of battle, Falzarin yells out to the Arcanist, nice pair of gauntlets you got there. And the guys
what are those about?
The guys in the middle of fighting.
Yeah.
Stop what you're doing for a minute. Let me talk about what you're wearing there. This ensemble.
Are you sure you weren't asking about his bucklers? Like,
That's right.
Part of it's a learning thing, but it's totally Falzarin to be like so aloof and be like, oh, magic,
really
let's talk
is.
about
Yeah.
it right now in the middle of battle. Oh,
Yeah,
man.
not to mention that like Leland said, partway through
He's
the story, I decided to stop calling them gauntlets and start calling them bucklers.
and none of us corrected you. I can't believe I didn't correct you. I'm like, what is he talking about? I don't know what the fuck he's talking about.
You know, bucklers, the things you put on your
Yeah,
hands.
sure. I don't know. I don't even know what a buckler is, but it's like, okay.
Yeah, that was funny to listen back to.
Okay. Anything else that's listed from the episodes?
When Elena realized that Gozer is a girl.
Oh, yeah, I totally thought you were playing a guy. Like, I didn't know.
It's half-orc. Half-orc is a lower voice kind of person.
Yeah, but they're not always a girl or, like, so I don't know. The name Gozer doesn't sound feminine to me. Your voice didn't sound feminine. Your size and shape and demeanor didn't seem feminine.
Wow.
Not saying that has to be a traditional...
I can't believe you just misgendered Gozer.
I did.
No, we didn't really describe ourselves a whole lot.
That's true.
Either.
That's true, actually. Yeah, we didn't really get into that.
We didn't say, like, oh, Bryn is, like, freaking hot. And she's
Hauntingly
just
beautiful.
Hauntingly beautiful with her...
That's inaccurate. You're an assassin.
Light green skin.
You've got scars all over you.
Yeah, I put a picture up.
Rough
on
around the
Discord.
edges.
Gozer, I mean, I don't picture her having pigtails. Let's just say that, you know? Like, it wasn't obvious. I'm sorry.
She could have kind of like, she could have some braided
Does she
hair,
have
like
boobs?
Viking
That's
style.
the main question. Like,
Yeah, well, I
so
mean-
if she had boobs, then I'm obviously an idiot, but I couldn't tell. Elena couldn't tell.
You can't tell from my voice that I have boobs.
I think every time Leland describes anybody, he should start with saying a tall and then size of boobs. Should be the second factor. We just do that from now on. All NPCs.
No,
And
let
it's
me
about,
get that.
it's about
Shaft is
5'7", double D.
What if it's a really fat dude though?
Well, still
applies.
5'7", double
You'll
D.
still be confused.
Shaft's walking around at, like, crotch height.
Yeah, Shaft doesn't know anything.
Shaft looks up, and if the boobs are big enough you can't see the face, then that's how he judges for size.
Well, all my female voices sound exactly the same, so we're all a little breathy.
I love it.
Whatever do you
a
mean?
little higher pitched than my own voice. But
I mean, Emily's Gozer voice is solid. Like, it's not edited in any way. She can really get into that lower register. I'm sorry for calling you a he.
I forgive you. Yeah, I would assume with half orcs, it probably is somewhat hard to tell sometimes.
yeah, but I mean, like, Gozer doesn't wear armor. She's, like, barely clothed.
Yeah,
So, like, if you
got my furs on.
Yeah. I mean, how thick are those furs?
Are they one of those races that just goes topless? And so, I don't know.
No, I mean she would have furs, but she would probably be very muscular. So
Yeah, that's true.
She's like one of those CrossFit girls, you know? The shoulders are so
Yeah,
big
well,
from a
yeah,
distance
like
you
the-
might, yeah.
bodybuilding type women.
Yeah. She's a
Now I
little
have a question.
gymnast.
How do half orcs come about? Like, how does that race? Is that a human and an orc have a baby?
Yeah, like an orc.
Like, you're a half elf, you're a human and an elf.
Orcs will breed with anything. So there
that's-
are other
Keep that in
there
mind.
are like ogres and humans. Like, keep that in mind.
I'm sorry.
Like, there are what's it called? It's like an there's like a half ogre, half orc race or monster too, right? Like, that's how they propagate. That's their soul. That is what their god Groosh, their god that they generally worship, their main deity, says. Orcs, go and spread your seed. That
Okay.
is how our race will succeed.
Good to know. Because
And
Falzron needs protection. So, I mean, if he can exchange...
Okay. But, like, Gozer in a sex scene would be like, hey, sex? Okay.
Now,
Now. Like, there'd be no description. No one wants to hear that on a podcast.
no, I'm not going to roleplay that either.
Well, you just insinuated. You never know. Keep that in mind. So just,
I'm not saying there's not going to be a sex scene in an episode.
ooh. Not with Shaft.
There wouldn't be any subtle, very like effective. Well, maybe not so effective flirting like Isabella Good. Like, it was pretty on point flirting. I've got to say.
It was good.
If I
You did
flirted
alright.
as
If
well
you do say
in
so
real
yourself.
life as Isabella flirted, then I would be drowning in female companionship.
I would like to see a drawing of Isabella standing next to Shaft, just to get
Like
a
the
visual.
portliness. Yeah.
Yeah, she's like at least twice her size. Like, she's pretty short herself, but she's
Right.
like almost as wide as she is short.
Definitely could not be the one on top.
So just remember, Shaft is good at using people. If you notice, Shaft left her a little blue balled, right?
Right.
Yes.
Yep.
Definitely.
So Shaft always leaves them wanting more, or
Want
any.
something.
Or any.
Yeah, I mean, that was brilliant. You got a free night's sleep, and we paid the exorbitant price of 1 gold
Extremely
for
high
this
rates for a
crappy-
really crappy room.
hole in the wall
I
place.
think you guys are underestimating the naivete of Isabella Good. So maybe you guys stick
Can't
around
say-
and you'll see.
I know. I totally know what she's got going on, but I can't
yeah.
say anything.
Yeah, no spoilers.
I've been clueless this whole time, so I'm just like along for the ride, and I've definitely noticed things.
Which plays
listening
well
back.
with Falzarin, because he's pretty clueless.
I've definitely noticed things listening back that I did not notice first time around, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, we can't really say what, or else it spoils a little bit, maybe. So.
Right.
But yeah, there's definitely things.
I think astute listeners will pick up on them as well. Hopefully, at least if I'm doing it well enough, hopefully they are.
If we would have realized that like every little thing that you've added has a purpose.
Well, and half the fun has been the fact that I was left being like, okay, well, what are we missing here? Do we do this? Do we do that? Like that's part of what makes a story interesting. Gets you invested in it.
Yeah, I think another thing to say to people who are just curious about playing D&D, if they're listening to this after they've heard a few episodes, is the stuff that happens outside of the game. Or when you're writing things down, NPCs that you meet and things like that. I think a lot of people do a terrible job of writing down the things that they find or that kind of thing. There is a little bit of bookkeeping to D&D. And, it doesn't have to be a lot. I mean, I tend to write things down and I look at it next session. I go, I don't know what the hell that means. But there is
you should at least try, though. We're learning that you should definitely be writing down more than we did at first.
Well, the fact that we're doing a podcast makes it that much worse, right? Yeah. Because we're going to get together 3 weeks after our last session and then we have no idea what the hell that NPC's name was.
And the listeners will, though.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We're the idiots.
But,
I mean, I need to take better notes myself too. Honestly, like I am just fearful of listening once my editing is caught up kind of to where our recording is, and like listening to the things that I got wrong, the continuity errors. I'm like, oh, this is gonna be cringy.
Like gauntlets and bucklers.
Yeah.
Well, no, not like that. I mean,
that's
literally
that's me.
Like I give you a bit of information. And then 3 episodes later, that information is now different for some reason. Like, that's going to happen.
Right. Yeah, I think keeping the names relatively easy are good. Not Zrokrog, Brochdrang. And then you go, well, how in the hell am I going to remember that? You can't even write it on a piece of paper.
You spell it phonetically. It's not that difficult.
No, I'm going to probably rename things Artie and whatever names you can come up with.
Look, I can give... Okay, if there's...
Well,
with Gozer around, I am free to give any NPC any name because they're probably going to die if they're interacting with the party. So we won't have to remember it.
The great thing about being players is we just call them whatever the hell you name them. We can call them whatever we want.
I was going to say, this isn't a spoiler because it sounds nothing like what you said, but like way in the future, Leland makes up a name and I literally wrote on my sheet, Blug, because I don't know what you said. I don't know what you said.
That was pretty close.
Blug.
That was honestly pretty close.
It doesn't spoil anything, but I mean, it gives you an idea of what John's asking you politely not to do.
No, I don't care what he does. I'm just saying I'm not going to play into it.
He's gonna start calling the guy Bob. He's gonna be like, all right, you're Bob now.
Yeah.
Shaft doesn't do blug.
So what do you guys think your main character trait is? Like I said, Shaft is sort of a manipulative. What do you think your character's main traits are?
I'm obsessed with magic and learning more about it. I think I've kind of touched on that already in the show, but that's kind of I care about that more than anything else.
I think Bryn, I don't know if it's coming out as much as I should, so it's good that you're asking me that. But like Bryn is like fiercely valuing her own independence and doesn't want to be told what to do, only wants to do what she wants to do. A little bit like Gozer, but like I'd say a little bit more thinky than Gozer, like always having a backup plan for when things go wrong and like a reason behind the things that she does. But she doesn't want to be reined in. She's a free spirit.
Gozer, and I don't know how much this is coming out, but Gozer is angry.
Yeah. I
don't know if you noticed.
I think it comes out eventually, for sure.
But she had some stuff happen that you guys don't know about at all. And she's feeling very alone and angry.
So as a party, Leland, how do you feel? I mean, other than the fact that we don't have a cleric, how do you feel the party is meshing?
Very surprisingly, I think you guys are doing an okay job. Like, you should be way more dysfunctional than you actually are. And that literally boils down to your wizard not implementing his spells properly, or really using the power he has at the time that you actually need it. So that could be.
You're welcome.
Wizarding is hard, okay, everybody? Like, if you're just starting
Wizarding
out,
is
it's
not
hard.
that hard. You point your finger, and whatever you're pointing at goes boom. That is the wizard that Balzarin is playing. There's very little boom. I must say.
There's not a lot of boom.
There's the trusty magic missile. It always hits.
But it really is difficult to. Like, combat's difficult to craft if you guys have no healer. That's really not good. Like, I mean, you don't. It's not necessary, obviously, and there are certainly ways to get around it. But like, there are. I mean, there's a few sessions in the future like where like half the party's like unconscious until they like wake up, like just like as per the rules of the game. Like,
we're just waiting. Yeah.
I still think that if we tactically. I mean, I know Shaft can do some massive damage in the right situation, and I know that Gozer can do some pretty good damage. And then if Bryn
can hit, she can do damage.
Exactly.
It's just a matter of getting that hit.
I think with you, being able to have somebody else drawing the attention, and you being able to backstab and do the
sneak attack,
attack, and a think
I can mage hand guys back in the back of the head. Stuff like that.
Right. Now, I think that all starts falling into place on what we can do best tactically in the situation.
Sure. Well, and that's always funny too, because like those tactics derive from the mechanics of your classes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is borderline like metagaming, like as players, right? So like. There's no reason for us to have to roleplay you as a party discussing your combat tactics, but it could be like, offhandedly, kind of during this long rest, we kind of, realize, boy, we've kind of been getting our asses kicked. Maybe we could do some things a little better here.
Right.
I mean, all your personalities though do not mesh in that functionality whatsoever though. So like that's almost unrealistic for you guys as a party. But I think some like improvement on tactics maybe could help. But like. There were some instances where Falzarin, you're like battlefield controlling pretty well, and shit Gozer just deals out damage like a fucking boss.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. And but Falzarin, literally to your mage hand combat, like you helping and giving Bryn advantage gives Bryn sneak attack in situations where she might not get it. So that's that's incredibly helpful. Like even that, and that's just a simple cantrip for you. So like that extra like. What is it now? 2d6 of sneak you're doing now or whatever.
Now I'm up to 2.
Yeah, that's like that could be worth your turn, Falzarin, right? Like that potential for that extra damage, as opposed to you. I mean, unless you're casting spells that, or you could cast spells that do 2d6 damage yourself too, right? Like like so that's the things you guys talk about, and plus the advantage on an attack is huge. I mean, that's just a twice the chance of getting a critical hit too, right? Which is nuts. So like that kind of stuff, like I love that mage hand when you flicked the golem or whatever. Yeah, that was good. That was really good.
Little spoiler alert here, sneak peek.
No, that's within the first 3 episodes.
What, the golem?
When I hit him in the back of the head. I think it's episode number 1.
I was thinking of Gargoyle. Whoops.
Yeah, it's one of the first things you did.
That's a spoiler.
Well, that's a spoiler.
Stay tuned.
Well, that's pretty good. We're running about an hour. Do you guys have anything else you want to snipe? Any snipes at your fellow players? Maybe.
I thought you were gonna go on some rant, Leland. You didn't do a rant.
I don't have a rant. I'm doing a great job. So why would I
rant? We rant about how bad a job we're doing.
No, I think you guys are doing awesome. And like I said, well, John, you had mentioned earlier about, viewing it as you guys like painting this tapestry of a story for yourselves. That's great. I mean, clearly I am playing off it, and the things you do gives me more fodder to make it more interesting for you guys. So that's how you should be. That's how you should be running your games. Future DMs out there, like you should do the same thing. I don't need to I mean, yeah, right away out of the gate, I set you guys on some railroad tracks, obviously, in that very first episode, right, to get things started. And I fed you guys tidbits, in lines with your character's goals and aspirations that could be considered railroady. But the way you go about them isn't. I'm not putting you on rails. You guys go about them as. I mean, shit. Yeah, you could have tried to face down with the Arcanist right away after meeting him. Who knows how that would have turned
TPK.
out? Like, I don't know.
I think re-rolling episode 1. That's
Yeah, we'd have some new. We'd be playing some new characters already. All right. Whew.
Yeah. Well, and like you guys saved Isabella too. I mean, she was like out cold on the ground there. That might have turned differently. Who knows?
Yeah.
Isabella Good maybe never could have came into being whatsoever. She may never.
That would have been
She
a
may
shame.
never have got a chance to live the life she was meant to live.
And pay for that bar tab that we racked up.
Oh yeah.
that's a
Shaft.
rolling tab right there. Shit.
Oh my god.
Isabella's
Shaft
going
in
to owe
his tongue.
people
I
all
know.
throughout Aspara.
Next city we go to. Do you guys know Isabella Good?
Yeah, I'm going to try to get it so
Milk it.
Detmer hires me to go pick her up for all the debts that she owes.
Oh man, that's funny.
And even the fact that their contact in Drew Call is named Detmer. That's funny to me.
I named that little guy.
We actually never explained that. That was Elena that
Yeah,
named, because originally that was part of her backstory. Like I was part of character creation, which we actually didn't record in the character creation.
Wait,
We
does
did
anybody
the-
know his name is Detmer? Episode 1, 2, and 3?
I think
no.
I think Elena may have slipped the name.
I don't think so, but it's okay that
Listening
they
to
know
the
that
character
because
backgrounds,
if they listen
they
to the
do,
world
they
lore,
do.
then they know that. Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
So if you haven't listened to that, go back and listen to it.
John, you obviously haven't been listening to any of this, so maybe you should go back and listen.
Well, we didn't listen to your backstory.
Right.
Oh, but would Detner not have been in your backstory?
That wasn't in mine.
Okay, should have been
Yeah.
in Shaft's backstory. So.
I can't confirm or deny if
Well, I'm
Detmer's
just
my backstory.
if you were hired to bring
I plead the
Arcanist
fifth.
bounty, like anyway, it's
But
in.
so Elena named Detmer. It wasn't like
I knew
John
it.
didn't like. I'm gonna name this guy Detmer. That wasn't Elena, so it
That was
wasn't.
me.
Like,
Detmer the dwarf. It just sounded
yeah,
good.
we actually never discussed that like on any recording anywhere. But
I also
for the record.
I also named this the after party, so I need the props for that.
That's right.
no, I don't remember you coming up with that.
That was
name. No, I
definitely
don't
my
recall.
idea.
What? Are
Yeah,
you
I thought
kidding
that was
me
Bill's.
right now? Are you serious? This isn't translating well to podcast, but I'm dying. God,
Yeah,
kidding
no,
me.
don't recall you chiming in at all with names on anything.
Oh,
Really,
my
actually, you're very unhelpful in that department.
You guys are killing me. Oh man.
Okay, you guys want to wrap it up?
Yeah, I think that's good for this episode.
Yeah, that's good. I hope by now, like, listener can discern like the player voices and figure out who's who. I mean,
Right.
Oh, yeah.
No, we're all good.
I think so.
I think we all sound different.
everybody knows the Leland Steele's voice, so
Oh,
Oh, of course.
that's easy.
Famous across the internet.
Leland Sleeveless Steel.
Yeah. Leland Sleeveless Steele.
Another name I came up with. I need credit for.
I don't. I think that was in my Twitter handle before you said it.
Oh my gosh.
It will be after this.
Okay, well that's cool. Thanks, guys. Did we do a sign off here? I don't know what we do. How do we end this?
I'm just gonna say bye, and then everyone chimes in and says bye. Bye. No one's joining in.
We just wanted to see you flounder.
I just want to wait till you run out of air and then snap to say goodbye.
It's gonna take a while.
No, I think we'll just tell everybody to listen in to the next 3 episodes, and then we'll be back again to discuss that.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
See you guys in a fortnight.
Bye.
Bye.
And that's our show. Our intro and outro music was created by Josh Jarvis. For your own musical inquiries, contact jamesmercymusic@gmail.com. All other music and ambient noise is courtesy of tabletopaudio.com. The Incorrigible Party is sponsored by Critical Hit Design. Visit criticalhitdesign.com for all of your graphic design needs. You can find more info on the characters and world at incorrigibleparty.com. Enjoying the show? Have any questions or rules corrections? Email us, contact@incorrigibleparty.com, or reach out on social media. The Incorrigible Party on Facebook and Instagram, @IncorrigiblePar on Twitter, using the hashtag AfterPartyIP for a shout out during our behind the screen after party episodes that drop every 4th release. Happy adventuring!